This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to
Carvana.
Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Hi, welcome to IKEA.
This is my college campus.
Correct, but I see you're on IKEA.com ordering some college items.
My daughter's room is pretty bare. We need a lamp, some comfy pillows, her favorite stuffy.
Dad!
With pickup options, we've got what you need to conveniently order IKEA. Literally anywhere.
Sweet. More time for gaming.
And studying. Wait, where are you going now?
Have to show the ultimate Frisbee team how easy it is to order from IKEA. Get IKEA whenever, wherever, however you want. Choose from thousands of pickup locations, affordable delivery options, and more.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. we share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Lori Wallace, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. It's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from San Diego. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about job change as the modern day hero's journey. As we were preparing for this conversation today, and I was looking over the prep materials, I love the way you frame this. Just the concept of it is just really fun. And it's really important because I think particularly for younger workers, but really for anyone, the modern workplace is shifting so rapidly, for one. Two, people are shifting careers so often nowadays, and our work life is expanding so rapidly. So the reality is anyone entering the workforce today is not just looking at like a 30 to 40 year career. They're probably looking at like a 50 to 60 year career. As horrible as that may sound to some people, that's the modern day reality because of increased longevity and increased long health in life. We're just going to work longer and longer, and we're going to have longer and longer careers, and we're going to be pivoting and shifting careers and jobs more and more. And so we're going to be changing jobs, and there's that can be scary, but it's also exciting, and it means there's like lots of opportunity. And so this idea of a modern day hero's journey is something I just love. So we're going to be unpacking and exploring this together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Lori's bio with everybody. Lori Wallace is the founder and CEO of Career Ecology, a HubSpot for work-life empowerment. She's mentored job seekers for over 20 years as the owner of her own search agency, where she matched prominent hospital systems like Cedars Sinai, Kaiser Permanente, and Sutter Health to skilled and passionate professionals ranging from CEO to lab assistant.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
But Lori brings much more than that, and she calls herself a work-life doula. Out of the angst of 2016, Laura founded Career Ecology in order to, as she puts it, help every human shed the old, awaken the imaginal, and fly free. Lori has a degree in psychology from UCLA and certifications from Nurtured Heart Institute and with Mary Reynold's Thompson, Wild Soul Facilitation. I could go on. There's just so many really cool things about your background. We were talking in the pre-interview about how so much of what we do kind of aligns with each other. And anyways, I think this is just going to be such a fun conversation. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background before we dive on in further?
Yeah, just as you were sharing, and I'm sure as listeners are noticing that there's some interesting certifications in there. I tend to in poetry, nature, biomimicry. I find that recruiting for me has never been all of, headhunting ever. In fact, I got into recruiting in, I was 36 years old. It was around 2001 that I got the inklings to go in after September 11th attack, and felt the despair in the world. And I decided to go from big banking into something where I could practice radical kindness. That's how I put it out to my recruiter at the time, who called me for a VP position with GE Capital. And I said, hey, I'm switching careers to radical kindness. And he's like, oh, great. I'm losing a candidate here. But I ended up having a chat with him, and he said, why don't you be a recruiter? And I thought, helping people with career transition, that feels right. But then I found out that it was being treated like, again, headhunting. And so I started my own agency in 2005 to transform headhunting into human connection. And that's when I started to realize that truly, if we think of like a stool, we do that 3-stool thing, the 3, legged stool, you've got work, love and health. And the way it was being treated in a search agency, I had 8 minutes where I was supposed to talk with a candidate and to discern and figure out what their needs and desires were. Some of them were laid off. Others were, in a deep state of angst because maybe they were in a toxic environment. There's so much going on that I always wanted to spend an hour with each person. So it was a no-brainer for me to start my own agency and flood it with really feminine values of empathy, deep listening, and also transparency and receptiveness, like following up. No one's ghosted who works with me ever. So you can gather from that bio that there's a depth to my approach.
I'm super curious about this because, I mean, one of the reasons why search agencies, headhunting agencies do that is because they're seeking volume, right? Because that's how they make their money. So you go from 8 minutes to an hour, say on average, all of a sudden you don't have that volume. Do you see like a huge decline in, the number of people you're placing and therefore decline in revenues? Or, do you see more loyal people that you're working with and an increase in placements? Like how does that work out for you in terms of the math?
Oh my gosh, it's a great question because I started doing it that way once I started my own agency, but I really was even doing it while I was working with the other agency. I just could not cut people off. And I found that I did a better job with matching. I was the rookie of the year. I was the top performer. What happened was I almost wasn't hired into that original agency because when I did their little disc assessment or whatever it was, I scored too high on empathy. It turns out that it was my empathy that really fueled my success. So I was able to make the proper match. I found my clients were thrilled that I really understood the candidates. The candidates then this was a candidate-driven market at the time when I started, because healthcare at the time, there weren't enough pharmacists. I was working kind of primarily with pharmacists. And being so candidate-driven, really the strength was that person that could develop a base of people who cared and referred their friends and then made matches that stuck. So I find that the volume thing, you have far fewer that can come through, and also some that say, sure, I'll interview, because they almost feel maybe bullied by some recruiters, but they feel this obligation, this kind of thing. And then in the end, they decline the offer because it's not real.
It's not a good fit. Yeah.
No, it's not efficient. It's not a good fit. It's not real. It's not good. So it definitely was the way to go. And it's been behind my success for sure.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that seems so obvious to me that would likely be the case, in that's my hypothesis, but I don't know because I've never been a headhunter myself, though, I've kind of played in the space. And so I'm so glad to hear you say that to confirm what I hoped would be true. And I just think it's funny / sad that you would almost not get the job because you scored too high on empathy.
I know.
I mean, what a world where, people are like, oh, you have too much empathy. So therefore, in a job where you connect with people, they would say you're not qualified. I mean, that's crazy to me. But it also, it speaks to how in some of these types of jobs, we've just shifted too much towards like efficiency, and we've moved towards non-human kind of approaches, which is so counterintuitive, and it really undermines our ability to actually be effective. And having been on the other side of those calls, of having headhunters contact me and having it be like crazy matches, like why are you even contacting me? Like, it doesn't even make sense. And why are we having this conversation? You're wasting your time, you're wasting my time. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. So having someone who would have a little bit of like awareness and empathy, like I can totally see myself resonating with that. And even if this particular position didn't make sense to me, like the next time I'm even thinking about, even contemplating at all about the possibility, you would be the person I would contact, right? You'd be the person I would be reaching out to. And I would trust, the next time you reached out to me, I would trust, like, yeah, this is something that is worth my time. It only makes sense, right?
It makes sense. There's a psychology in it. So, I find most salespeople in whatever role they're in, and recruiting is definitely considered sales. the person, generally what they do is they call and they say, hi, I'm working on a such and such position. Want to see if you'd be available in that, or interested in that. And they go through, and the psychology is a natural, like, no, like there's a natural, like, I'm fine. I don't change. The idea of change is something that frightens people. So they're going to just naturally say no to that and not even open up the possibility that maybe change has dropped into their life for a reason and they should just stay curious. So one of the things that I do as a recruiter, because I still am recruiting and I've got Career Ecology as well, which is helping people through authentic relating, really to open up that new old navigation system of building trust and bonding, because that's really essential. So in the recruiting, it all kind of bleeds together. But what I do when I reach out to somebody cold is I never tell them I have a job and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in that. I say, hi, I'm Lori Wallace. We haven't met before. So first of all, let me just acknowledge that this is a stranger. I'm calling from, my company, and then I'll say, I need to ask you first, because I know I'm calling you out of the blue. Do you value staying informed of opportunities that could be superior to what you're doing now, something new? Is that a value to you? And if I have somebody that does value that idea of opening up to the mystery and that they're curious, then I say, wonderful, because I hold safe space for dreaming. Let's talk. And then they just go, and we talk. And one person might be, Lori, I'm a pharmacist, but I've dreamt of being a librarian. And I said, turns out my best friend from childhood is the dean of the medical library at Stanford. Got them together at lunch, and now she's a medical librarian. It's this work for me, being a recruiter, working in Career Ecology. It is my life's work to help impact people to come back into their wholeness, to discover what brings meaning to their life. This is very Viktor Frankl, the concept that we all have a will to meaning. The motivation behind a human is a will to meaning. It's not a will to pleasure that Freud says. That's a distraction from meaning. It's not a will to power, like Adler would say. It truly is finding meaning in the chaos, meaning in the mundane, and finding what is that small thing that touches you. What's that vital spark that you have? And there's all these different types of jobs or places that can go ahead now and feed that. Then you're brought alive. Then you're really contributing to the ecosystem of humanity. And that's what we want. And that excites me.
Yeah, well, that really is exciting. And everyone is so unique in where they happen to be at in this moment in their life, in their particular life stage, family obligations, and wants and dreams and desires, et cetera, et cetera. And it shifts. And what I want today may be different than in 6 months from now or a year from now or whatever, or what seems possible. So being open, I agree. I think it's just so awesome to be open, whether or not you're ready to take that leap or not, to just be open to exploring, and then maybe the time is right, maybe it's not, but you can be open to the possibility and explore opportunities. And I think that's kind of gets us to how you framed up this conversation today around the modern day hero's journey, at least as I think about it, because it takes courage to embrace change. But maybe speak more to that and what you mean by it. Job change is a modern day hero's journey. Maybe you have some personal experience with that you want to speak to, but also, like, what does it mean for others?
I love that concept, of the hero's journey and how it has been discussed and written up by James Hillman and Michael Meade and so many, Robert Bly. They talk about the ancient fairy tales and the stories and the myths that really make up our experience as humans. I kind of start there for a second as I talk about this, because some people say story is really the vital force of humans. I mean, it's through story that we make sense of the world, that we come to be interested and aspirational about anything new. Children, the Grimm story tales and fairy tales, all of those are really important still to this day, but they've always been important for a child to come to understand that the world does have dark woods. It might have somebody like a scary neighbor who's kind of witchy, who scares you and wants to eat you in the oven. But the stories help the children realize they come into a sense of safety because their natural sense that there's something scary in the dark is validated through fairy tales. And then at the end of the fairy tale, there's a happy ending. And so this concept of the hero's journey is for us to bring it back and recognize it in a modern world is very healing to the psyche. Everything I find in life in this modern world and our human experience comes down to the psyche and to psychology. Everything, this last huge year of politics, everything, whatever we're going with AI, it's ultimately to come down to the human psyche. And so what I have found in all these years working with people looking for work is that so much is happening through the search that really likens to this hero's journey, that initially, let's say you're laid off, suddenly it's as if you've just been thrust out to the dark woods and said, good luck, we're pushing you out here of the safety of the walls of the castle. Off you go. And the person doesn't necessarily have an updated resume. They don't know what's going on in the job market. Maybe they're not even on LinkedIn. They barely touched it. They certainly haven't been going to any of their networking events. And so it's really out there on their own with a whole bunch of messages saying, you're going to die, and nobody wants you. And you don't know what you're doing. Imposter syndrome. Will I ever get hired again? God forbid, too, there's any concern about ageism, maybe oh my God, this happened to me and I'm 48 or I'm 52, so all this stuff. It's I'm going to die here. And then you start to reach out to people and start to test the waters, and you're getting ghosted now. So now there's even more of a feeling because, ghosting is so primal. The idea of, back in caveman days, if you were kicked out of the cave, you were ghosted, you're dead, So our nervous systems have not developed as fast as our modern world and technologies. So if we're thrust out into the dark woods, we need a navigation system. We have the aspiration to get up and over that next mountain and into the next community that's safe and abundant. But how do we get there? What do we do? Do we have the compass? Do we have enough water and food and a trusty horse? So when I say to people, this is hard, this is bone-chilling difficult. And in fact, it's going to trigger some trauma. It probably will. When you get that no and you thought you were going to get that yes, that's going to trigger a lot of confusion and concern. And what's your financial situation? That's another whole level. So we say, all right, back in the old stories, when you were thrust out to the wood, part of the hero's journey is the scariness, the monsters in the wood. And then there's the thrash on the dash on the thigh. There's the injury. And then there's the finding somebody that's a mentor you can trust, then who breaks your trust. There's the falling in love and out of love. Think about a job search. All of this is happening. And it's so big. And ultimately you make that connection, but for a while you'll have that job. And to your point earlier, it's going to end. And then you're back out again. So it's this constant out there in the wilderness. And what I'm doing with Career Ecology is saying, hey, you know what? There is a navigation system that you can awaken that we used to have. You can even if I look at the Aboriginals in Australia, they can walk. I know this sounds weird. I feel like I say it all the time. I think it's 1,000 miles, but they can walk from one destination pinpointed to another without a map. Their full map, it's based on dreams and the navigation of stars. So how do we wake up? What is that navigation system? How do we keep our balance amid surprises? Maybe that's what life is all about, is for us as humans to develop our psyche is, how do I actually deal with change? And how do I embrace that as the norm? So that hero's journey at the end is I didn't die. I have two candidates I'm working with right now through Career Ecology. Actually, I wouldn't call them candidates, they're clients, but they are all looking for jobs. They are exceptional. For 2 years, they've been looking over 500 applications. They are exceptional people, exceptional. Getting no's after no after no. And this has a lot to do with the post-COVID hangover we're in right now. Tech is, but we're working with them on portfolio career concepts. And this is really big right now. I think this change, what COVID gave us, is the concept of portfolio career, so that it's not a linear, hyper sort of masculinized way that we feel like we have control and we do this one thing and what about some chaos in there? And so that means we have to accept a portfolio career in case one thing shuts down, these other two are still bringing in income and still developing my sense of joy with work. This is another part of what the hero's journey is. What do I learn and how do I expand and get closer from being a narrow, scared little mouse. And I come forward and I become that knight who found the Holy Grail, but only through courage and only through developing my own sense of wonder and skill in the world.
Can we talk a little bit more about the portfolio career piece? Because I really like that. I like everything you were just talking about, the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think we need to, it's scary, but we need to learn to embrace it because like you said, it is scary, from an evolutionary psychology standpoint. Yeah, it's scary. Absolutely. But it's not actually that scary. Like it really is something we can all do.
Yes.
And for anyone who's gone through the process, yes, it can be traumatic. Yes, it's scary, but you will get through it. You will come out the other side. And I'm a believer that you usually will come out the other side better for it in a great opportunity, often doing something, that's going to be even a better fit for you. You're going to be doing some new thing that's going to energize you, put you on a new path that maybe you hadn't even thought of before. So, I mean, ultimately, it can be a really great thing for you, even if it's painful in the process of going through it initially. But that's why it's a hero's journey, and it does take courage, but you will get through it. But this idea of a portfolio career.
Mm-hmm.
On the worker side, I love it. I love it. It's something that I believe in. The challenge is on the employer side, they don't like it. Like employers don't want their workers having other stuff, right? So like how do you approach this when you're working with clients? On the one hand, like, no, you need to like have little side hustles, side gigs, have your own little stuff so that because employers aren't necessarily going to be loyal to their people. Like you can get laid off at any time for no particular reason. Like it doesn't have to do anything with you. It doesn't mean you're not a good performer. It just like literally could happen at any time for any reason. And so there's no like commitment or loyalty necessarily to employees anymore. But they don't want you doing side stuff. So what kind of advice do you give to your clients?
So I noticed that state by state, it's interesting how it's even set up to open up towards that. So like in California, it's illegal to offer to your employees a non-compete. So, things like, so you've got some sort of sense based on, and it's so industrial age that we own an employee until they get the golden watch. So COVID in combination with Gen Z is crashing this wide open. And so it's going to be the employer and the employee that understands that old industrial age, which is still somewhat, I mean, it was important at the time because we were developing new industries and everything was new. And so we needed some focus. But right now we're at the edge of a new epoch, of this AI and fractional everything, that I think that the employer, and this is what I am coaching employers on this as I come forward with Career Ecology, because one of the things we offer them is a new approach to outplacement. We say, rather than this idea that people are just laid off and outplaced and maybe use kind of like a traditional outplacement service, which there's just some sort of board, coach who's just has their 20 minutes with you, every other week, and you're just doing the resume style. And it's really antiquated. How about we actually have a language that say, this is an empowerment moment, just like you were saying, this is an empowerment moment. You're going to come out and we want you to be fully supported in your authentic expression and finding where you belong and understand that you've been somewhat set free. Let's look at it that way. You've been freed for what's next. And if you actually can hire people in and your message from day one is, let's talk about the idea of fluid change. We don't know what AI is going to do to our business. We don't know if there's going to be another pandemic. We don't know what a merger could do, but we do know that we are going to evolve. And that means that as a business, we have a culture that we are going to incent you and encourage you to go from one position to another between different divisions. We want you to explore and experience different roles here. And we want you to get comfortable with the idea of growth and change. And in fact, we have a relationship, with Career Ecology in there. So they want you to have a resume that's updated. We want you on LinkedIn. We want you developing your network. We want this to be a healthy ecosystem. And when you have that, then ultimately the people that stay with you belong there. Nobody wants the person that's sitting on their chair and hates work and is no longer inspired and isn't doing good work anymore. So we have to like help employers like stop gripping. And it's like we're coming into more of a natural ecosystem. The idea of ecosystem thinking, because I'm a total biomimic. I love the Biomimicry Institute and all of it, their master's degree, and how they have problems. They have the biologist right there. They have the engineer. They have the HR professional, like whatever it is they're dealing with. They go, how did nature do that after 4.5 billion years, successful evolution? And so can we behave more like an evolving ecosystem that is going to make sense for whatever the environment is? So that's very much this message. And as humans, change still innately freaks everyone out. Mm-hmm. And it's so natural. So we got to get there. First, we have to breathe when we even think about change. I'm speaking in my own personal life too. You can probably tell my temperament, I am an extrovert. I'm very sanguine. I love change. When my husband and I were moving from one state to another and we were blowing up our lives, he's like, how are we going to do this? And I said, or just jump off the cliff. And he said, no. And I go, parachutes that have been double, triple tested. And he's like, okay. So, we have opposite temperaments. He's melancholic. He's Charlie Brown. I'm Snoopy, with a good dose of, some Lucy and all that, because I own my own business and all that. But I recognize that not everybody is that interested in chaos and change. But it is essential that we find a way to help people come out of their boxes of distinct fear. And when we explain, you go through these motions and how do you collaborate with change? We can say this for the employer and the employee and the individual. Then you are going to be in a position now where you are opening up a navigation that is 50% of your reality. One half of everything you do is your own engagement, your own brilliance, your own brain, your intellect, and brawn. 50 only. The other half, when you're looking for a job, is chance, is somebody's cousin comes in and takes that role out from under you. Oops. Okay. Well, that door closed. That means you're getting guided over here. Or, chance means like, oh, you're going for that biotech job, but all of a sudden biotech is just constricting because there's been some change going on from a regulation standpoint or whole sectors. So it's like, where do I go? So I teach people that when you're looking for a job, you need to have a threefold path. And we need to make sure that the ego and the rational mind feel safe. So one of those pathways is status quo, the job that you're designed for, that you've already been doing. Let's pitch it. Let's see if it's there for you, but possibly you're destined for something new. So the second pathway is divergent. Let's take skills out of what you've been doing and let's put it here. So, if you're that healthcare gal, like the pharmacist, we took her skills and we put her into medical library. That actually kind of related to her third choice, which was the out of the box. Mm-hmm. And that's really a fun place to start. And you say to people, what would you do if you could? And I want to hear it. There's always resistance to sharing what it is. Nobody even sits in a dream state anymore. So you have to extract it. But a large percentage of those who work with me end up doing it.
I wish we had more time that we could go on and on and on, because I think there's so much more to say here, but I do note the time and I probably need to let you go and get on with your busy day. As we start to wrap things up, I just want to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can get connected with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've just enjoyed this so much. I know we could probably go for a whole weekend on all these topics. We can reconnect again another time, but I'm really excited about all of your work. And I want to thank you for all your articles and all your perceptions. I can tell there's a lot of synergy here between us. Yes, people who have questions, come on over to careerecology.com. It's CAREERECOLOGY, just those two words together. And I share a lot in there about the importance of authenticity, and I drop into really what this navigation is. Every Monday, I'm switching to noon Pacific Standard with the new year. I have an open office hour to anyone that's curious and wants to talk about this stuff, that wants to cry or laugh or get imaginal. And that you can just sign on through Zoom, through the website. And there is a page in addition that talks about an online little book experience. It's an experiential. And since you brought up, I'll just mention it's fun. It's only $25 for anybody that wants to kind of open up their wild soul in this concept. How can I be fully enlivened in this life? I want to get out of this box. I'm done with feeling small. And I call it Way of the Monarch. And it's really based on my experience this last 10 years, moving to San Diego, being immersed in monarch butterflies. And I've watched their life cycle, and it's so relevant to humans. Their life cycle of really becoming a rabid consumer, where they are just eating milkweed like it's going out of style. Sounds like humans, right? And then they shed their skin about 5 times. This is where humans sometimes stop growth, because it's very vulnerable to shed and to do something new. But then the monarch butterfly, though, it's compelled towards its transformation. So ultimately it goes into the J shape, into a chrysalis, and it comes out as a winged butterfly that is now a pollinator. The things that stop humans, I discuss and share in an experiential way through Way of the Monarch, and you will come out now fully free. Being afraid of crisis, afraid of change, afraid of the dark, afraid of like not knowing, of exile, feeling uncomfortable with sharing your truth. There's a lot about boundaries in there and a whole bunch of stuff. So that's in there too. So that's kind of a fun thing to do for self. So that, and it sort of wraps up what we've been talking about. It's this idea of being free and being wild and going for it and living the best life, full of ups and downs, failures and successes. So when you finally pass this earthly realm, you went for it, and have it be a great story.
I love it. I love it. Lori, thank you so much. It's just been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Lori can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.